If you're trying to work through writer's block, one question to ask yourself is whether you need to try harder. I'm Dave Harris, and in this video I'm going to talk about what writer's block is and whether trying harder is a good answer to writer's block. If you like this video, if you like material like this, please like and subscribe, comment below. I would really appreciate it. Thanks very much. We'll start by saying that writers get stuck. Writers struggle to write. They feel that they're blocked in some way and describe what they experience as writer's block. So this is a familiar phrase that many of us know. I would define it basically as the experience or behavior of trying to write but producing nothing. It's putting in effort and getting nothing out. You can find a lot of people who will say that writer's block is a myth, that it's just people aren't trying hard enough, but it's a description of an experience that resonates with people. So it's real to the extent that it feels real, and it leads us to ask, why do they have this experience? If you try to write but don't succeed, what stopped you from writing? I think there are multiple potential answers. One answer is that you didn't try hard enough. And that's a very common explanation in advice for writers, that you just need to try harder, be more self-disciplined. It makes sense. Writing is hard. Writing requires significant self-discipline. If you lack that self-discipline, if you don't have enough effort to push through the difficulty of writing, you may feel like you're experiencing writer's block because you'll be putting in effort but not getting anything out. But if you lack self-discipline, the thing to do is clear. You want to try harder. It's not easy, but it's clear. In my experience, people who say that writer's block is a myth also say you just have to try harder. You just have to be more disciplined. But sometimes try harder is the wrong answer. Sometimes trying harder means injuring oneself. For some writers, writing is so painful that trying to write exacerbates emotional injuries, creating a cycle of negative reinforcement, which makes it harder for the person to write in the future. If writing today is extremely painful, you're going to have a lot of anxiety about writing tomorrow, and that anxiety will inhibit your ability to write, making it possible that tomorrow is even more painful. It is possible to suffer emotional injury and then exacerbate that by trying harder, when trying harder is not the right answer. The important question to ask yourself then is, do you lack self-discipline? It's reasonable to ask whether trying hard enough is the issue, but you don't want to just look at your recent history. If you sat down to try and write yesterday and you surfed the web for the entire 2-hour session, don't take that as an indictment on your self-discipline. Instead, look at your longer life history. Have you written in the past? What have you written in the past? Because writing successfully shows self-discipline. If you had it in the past, why don't you have it now as a writer today? And have you shown self-discipline in other dimensions in your life? Have you been a musician, an artist, an athlete, a business person, in some field of endeavor that required skill and self-discipline? If so, why isn't that self-discipline enough for your writing now? I think if you've shown extensive self-discipline as a writer or in some other field, it makes sense to look for other potential writing blocks. So what are other potential causes of writer's block? Well, I group them roughly into 2 areas. I don't mean to be exhaustive. There may be things outside of these 2 areas, but there are emotional issues like anxiety or trauma that can interfere with writing, and there are intellectual issues like perfectionism or other bad writing practices that interfere with writing. And often these issues are multiple and intertwined. As a result, to work through your writer's block, you want to get a good diagnosis of the cause or causes. If you can try harder without injuring yourself, then yes, try harder. That's a good strategy. Trying hard is good within reason. So you also want to look for other barriers to your writing. Are there emotional or intellectual barriers? Does perfectionism stop you? Does fear of rejection inhibit your work? Are you haunted by the memory of somebody who said your work was trash? Do you fear that you're not smart enough? Think of all these things that might be creating a barrier to your work. Trying to understand them can help you begin to identify your blocks and find ways to work on them. In the long run, writing is hard. It does take self-discipline. It does require trying. So you want to be careful not to make it torture. You don't want to try too hard. Writing takes regular, persistent effort, realistically, day after day. It will push you to your limits. It will make you uncomfortable. But it should also have positive experiences that build confidence. Since lots of writers have reported having experiences that are positive as writers, this is within the realm of reason. So work hard, but don't push too hard. Some difficulty and discomfort are okay, but be sensitive that you're not creating some cycle of negative reinforcement. You have to feel like your practice sessions are worth the energy and the discomfort you experience. To summarize, writer's block is the experience of trying to write without success. And one possible explanation for this experience is lack of self-effort or lack of self-discipline. Writing is hard, so self-discipline is necessary, and try harder is often good advice. Be more disciplined, it's often good advice. Sometimes, however, try harder is a bad response, especially if you have an emotional or intellectual block. If a writing block arises from an intellectual or emotional source, trying harder can exacerbate the issue and create cycles of negative reinforcement that inhibit your ability to write. Therefore, as a first step to working through writer's block, you want to try to understand the nature of your writing difficulties. And then, with that understanding in hand, you want to practice, you want to keep trying and trying hard, but with sensitivity enough that you don't turn your practice into torture. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this useful. I'm Dave Harris. Have a great day.